We're at, what is it, 7:01? Pav, do you mind reading the mission statement?
Sure.
Do you have it handy?
The Ipswich Public School aspires to empower all students to be global citizens who are effective communicators, analytical problem solvers, and savvy consumers of information. We propose to do this through an emphasis on communication, critical thinking, creativity, self-management, perseverance, and collaboration. Students will be active partners in authentic learning, offering voice and choice in demonstrating competency.
Thank you. Announcements. The next school committee meeting will be held on Thursday, September 9th. Opening day for all district staff will be Monday, August 30th. The first day of school for students is Wednesday, September 1st, and there will be no school on Friday, September 3rd. Okay, citizens' comments. Obviously, we have a big crowd here today. I think we have folks on both sides of the issue here that would like to speak. So we've actually allotted 15 minutes for citizens' comments today. What I'll do is split right down the middle. I want to make sure that one side doesn't dominate the discussion over the other. So if you want to speak, feel free, come to the microphone, just state your name and address for the record, and go from there. But again, I do want to make sure that each side has equal time to discuss their views. And I will also say, citizens' comments is, let's just keep it respectful. We don't want to be argumentative. We're not here to debate the issues. We're just here to hear what you have to say. We'll consider it and move on with the rest of our agenda. Anyone like to speak? Okay.
My name is David Aliva. We moved here 2 years ago. Love it. My daughter goes to high school here. And I'm in biotech, immunologist, vaccinologist. I'm actually developing a COVID vaccine. We moved here about 6 months before COVID started, and my passion is immunotherapeutics for type 1 diabetes and autoimmune diseases. And then all of a sudden my company said, oh, we're losing money here, we're going to get on the bandwagon for COVID.
Children that are anxious, they're getting headaches, they're getting fatigued, they're stressed out, they're anxious about being vectors of a virus, they're afraid to be around friends. Mental health is at an all-time high, suicide's at an all-time high for these children. They're being told to stay away from people, and this, I'm concerned about the trajectory of where we're going if we start the beginning of the year with masks. I understand there are things coming from above you, and it's maybe somewhat out of your hands, but I want you to understand that I am very concerned about the trajectory of the year. I'm afraid of what's going to happen in a month. Are we going to continue masks? Are we going to say if you're vaccinated, you can take off your mask? If you're unvaccinated, you have to continue to wear a mask? That's going to cause segregation. It's going to cause bullying.
That's right.
This is a huge problem, a huge road we're walking down. I understand we're trying to figure things out in the beginning of the year, and I have compassion for that, and I am a huge believer in medical freedom. I come here with an open heart for everybody's choice. If you're concerned, have your child wear a mask. If you're not concerned, allow that child to have that freedom to breathe fresh air in which our God Creator allowed us to have. I don't believe this should be forced upon anybody. I think it should be an individual choice. I value medical freedom, as I've said, and I'm very concerned about the future of the road we're going down. I'm really concerned about children and other teachers that will be forced to have a mask on their face if they choose not to be vaccinated in a month, and that they'll be bullied, segregated, and treated differently. So I beg of you to listen to parents who are concerned and allow individual choice and freedom when it comes to medical devices, which these are. Not to mention, let's discuss the idea and the fact that kids are not wearing masks appropriately. They're wearing all sorts of masks, not surgical masks, which data shows surgical masks prevent droplets of secretions, which I'm sure Dr. O'Flynn could understand as a surgeon. They do not prevent the spread of respiratory particles and viruses and infections. We're not wearing them correctly. We're taking them off, we're putting them on desks, we're putting them in pocketbooks, they're dropping on the floor, we're coughing in them, we're sneezing in them. They're contaminated when you cough in them, they're contaminated when you sneeze in them. They should be changed. Are you as a school going to provide masks for our children when they sneeze in their masks, when they're dropped on the floor? Or are we going to send our kids with a huge stack of masks because once they're sneezed on or in or dropped, they're contaminated, they need to be changed. They're no longer effective. We're having kids wear the same mask for days on end. That is dangerous. They're harboring bacteria. They're creating kids that are getting acne. They're getting anxious. I beg of you to listen to parents who are concerned, as well as parents that are concerned and want their children to wear masks. Allow medical freedom, individual personal health choice when it comes to a medical device on our children, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. 6 minutes.
Hello, I'm Nicole Murdoch. I live at 12 Putnam Road. I have a background in child development and childhood trauma. I know you guys received our letter. I'm going to go over a few things just so we can repeat it. So the first thing I want to start with is a senior industrial hygienist who works in occupational and environmental toxicology. I just listened to her. Is it okay if I take this down while I speak? For now?
Sure.
I just listened to her testimony for her school. It wasn't her school, but she's actually touring around going to all superintendents to beg of them to listen to her. So what she does is she actually, and I can send you guys this as well. She actually trains medical experts, doctors, scientists, all of the above, how to actually wear a mask. And she goes to all the different sites that might need intervention, everything that has to do with environmental toxicology. So in listening to her debate, she first cited that masks have 0% efficacy. She basically stated that the virus is, I think she said 40,000 times smaller than the sutures of the mask, and she compared it to like throwing sand at a wire fence. That's the way that she put it. She has never in her whole career had kids or adults during any type of pandemic that has to do with viruses and masks. She called it child abuse, personally she did, and she begged the school committees, the superintendents to look at other options. And I can send those to you. The number one that she cited was actually an air filtration system that she recommends superintendents to use their COVID funds for, which filters 99.9% of pathogens. And she said that that was an amazing alternative to the risks that come with masks. And that's my next point, is the risks that come with masks. I'm a mom. I promise my kids since they were born that I will do the best. I will keep them safe. After seeing countless doctors, nurses tell me that, one, masks aren't effective at all, that wasn't my course of keeping them safe. And now that the masks are on, I looked at studies, countless studies, a lot of which that we've sent to you guys. One in particular was a study of 25,000 kids in Germany who found overwhelming reports of adverse reactions in kids during the masking year, including excessive CO2 in their bloodstream, a profound clinical impairment, and loss of consciousness sometimes. And another study found levels of CO2 that were 6 times higher than what was deemed safe for children, and this was after 3 minutes of having their mask on. CO2 6 times longer. So I looked up to see what something like that would do, and a PPE expert said that having this high CO2 levels, low oxygen in your system can lead to hypercapnia and also permanent impacts on the human growth and development. And she also anticipated profound dangerous conditions such as cerebral palsy. So my question for you guys is, how do you plan on keeping our kids safe with these adverse reactions? I know under this, the Emergency Act that masks and vaccines are under right now, they're under the Emergency Act. We need informed consent, right? That's part of the law. That's why the Nuremberg Code was created. The Nuremberg Code was created so that these experimental, and masks right now are experimental, the testing isn't there, they're put under in the same thing as vaccines. The Nuremberg Code states that we have to have informed consent for these. So I didn't receive any of
We
the,
don't require that.
I haven't received any of the facts that we sent you guys. So I have 2 questions. One, how are you guys going to keep our kids safe from all of these adverse reactions, and who is liable for those adverse reactions? And my second question is, are you going to share all of these adverse reactions? Because every single person does require informed consent of possible adverse reactions. Have you studied it? Who is your medical consult that is helping you guys compile this? And also, how can those of us who I value my children's safety, how can we, from the Nuremberg, that's a law, I know a mandate's a mandate, but a law is right above that. How do we use that law? Because we are allowed to opt out of any experimental medical equipment. So how do we go about doing that? I know in Brian Blake, in your testimony, I'm not sure if you're listening. Hi, in your testimony you said that the exemptions, sorry, I just was. Okay, good. I just wasn't sure.
Is that all right?
Yes, please, thank you
Nicole,
so
I'm
much.
sorry to interrupt you. We're kind of getting close on time.
Okay,
I'd love to
this
get
is my
someone
very
else
last
a chance
thing.
to speak
Yeah,
to.
my question, my third question that I'd love if you guys could address is how, now I'm blinking.
The exemption.
Yes, is how we go about, I know that there was one that said safety/health exemption, so I'm wondering how we can do that for those of us who would like to opt out of this. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
For your time.
Would you guys comment on the exemptions?
And before we move on, anyone else have anything they'd like to say?
Oh, sure. Hi, everyone. I am Kristen Zetlin. I live at 19 Putnam Road. I don't really have any questions. I live in a household with an educator, 3 little girls, and I am a nurse of 16 years. I've worked in a COVID ICU for the last 18 months. I just want to say my first grader was in school all of last year. She thrived. She wore a mask every day she was there. She never complained. And I just want to say I am utterly grateful for the educators of this town and also for the frontline workers. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Greg, you still have time for one more?
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Becky. Didn't see you there.
Thanks, Greg, for responding to my email earlier and letting me speak tonight.
Sure.
I'm Becky Slauson. I'm the president of the Ipswich Educators Association. Very proud high school English teacher here in this building. Have been working here for, I believe, 17 years in Ipswich, and wouldn't want to do anything else. Last year was as everybody knows, a rough year. We could spend a long time talking about the things that as teachers we are very pleased to say goodbye to and never see again. But there are some things that we're really excited to see coming back. We're really excited, Dr. Blake, that our outdoor learning spaces will be back, provide really important opportunities for those mask breaks, for us to be able to get outside, that kids be able to interact in that way. So that's wonderful. Addresses some of the concerns that have been raised tonight. And I did want to come tonight because the Ipswich Educators Association has polled the teachers in Ipswich. We had a wonderful response, especially over summer vacation. It was kind of exciting to see how many teachers spoke up. We had about 130 teachers who participated, and there was a strong 89% support for implementing the mask policy this year. Teachers feel safer coming into school, but even more importantly, it is our #1 priority this year to be in class with our kids every day. That's what we want. We don't want to have to see them and meet with them over screens. That's something we're really happy to let go of and not bring back. And we really believe that wearing a mask can help keep us in class, keep us safe, and if it helps to prevent that outbreak that might force us to once again have to miss time physically in the classroom together, it's a small thing to ask.
No, it isn't.
So as teachers, we support this. We are really glad to hear the commissioner put out the statement that he did. We fully support Dr. Blake with the mask mandate for starting out this year. And I just wanted to come here tonight to say that. So thank you.
Thanks, Becky. Okay. So moving on with the agenda, discussion on the mask mandate. So I think everyone's aware the rules changed a little bit 2 days ago. DESE made masks a requirement for the start of the school year. Do you have any comments or feedback on that?
No, I think, most of the North Shore superintendents were all contemplating the same thing. Over the last couple of weeks, I know a number of school committees had met and had already voted on it. Our meeting wasn't scheduled till tonight, so I put out as one of the speakers indicated last week or 2 weeks ago, that my recommendation to the school committee this evening would be to start the year with masks and then see where things go. Yesterday's announcement from the commissioner certainly took that out of our hands, but that was what my recommendation was going to be, to at least start the year.
Mm-hmm.
We are seeing a significant number of cases in town again. I think there's 13 or 14 active cases right now in Ipswich. The positivity rate is 2.7, 2.8, I think. And it's been hovering right around there.
Are those adults or kids?
They're cases, I don't know.
Yeah, so cases don't matter. By the way,
Tell that to people that are dying.
no, hey,
Hey, Dave,
you listen
Dave.
to me.
David?
No.
Citizens query time is over. You can listen now.
Yeah, great.
Brian, thanks very much for your leadership on this issue, and thanks again to the Teachers Association. I really appreciate you speaking up on that, Becky. Thank you.
So, as Brian said, I think the decision's certainly out of our hands, but I would certainly accept a motion to support DESE's recommendation or mandate for masks in the schools. I think it's important that we do stand behind our teachers and, show that support as a committee.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor of supporting the commissioner's mask mandate to start the school year?
Can we discuss a little bit?
Sure.
I'm very pleased also that the commissioner put a pathway forward in the document,
Mm-hmm.
that as of October 1st, if we can prove vaccination status for high school students and middle school students, that they can be moved out of the mask mandate, and that can
Mhm.
subsequently happen later. So I think that will be helpful. Do we know the vaccination status of our students now, and how much information do we have?
We're still in the process of collecting it. I know that the vaccination rate for staff is in the high 70s, maybe 80% or there, right about there. I'm not sure of the students. we haven't been actively getting those in over the summer as more and more students have been vaccinated. So that'll be going out with the paperwork this, when we open.
Yeah, it'd be really helpful, obviously, to have an update at the September 9th meeting, and also to provide opportunities for students who haven't had the chance to get vaccinated, where we can connect them to resources that might be able to get them,
I know
or
that they've been
connect
having
their parents.
clinics right here in town over at the church.
Yeah, that would be great.
Keeping an eye
Whatever we
on
can
that.
do to help them along would
And
be
the
good.
vaccination rate for teachers may be even higher.
Good.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, moving on. School committee retreat recap. Feels like it was about a year ago. I forget what we even talked about. No. I think we had a really good discussion on setting goals for the year, both personal or committee goals and superintendent goals. I think the plan is to recap those at our next meeting, right, on the 9th? Anyone have any feedback on the retreat, anything you wanted to discuss?
I thought it was a good discussion. It
Yeah.
was nice to be able to get into the weeds in sort of a more relaxed setting on some goals,
Yep.
some priorities for us this year, kind of refocus.
No, I thought it was good too. I thought, it was, this is the third one I've been to. And I think this was the most productive. I think it was, it was a good sort of overall discussion, and, I think we have a good path forward for the coming year. So it was pretty productive. Like I said, next meeting we'll kind of hammer the goals out and make those public, and, we need to get some subcommittee meetings scheduled, especially around budget and communications, so we can get some of these things moving forward. So I think that'll be kind of the next step. Building inspection. Jeff?
On August 19th, last Thursday morning, Chubb and I had an opportunity to tour both the high school and the middle school. Jonathan Mitchell, Kathy McMahon, and Christopher Rays all spent time taking us around the building. It's the first time I've done a pre-opening tour, but I was really impressed with the condition of the facility and how hard they've worked over the summer to get the buildings ready. There are a number of classrooms in both buildings that have been painted, new floors in some buildings. There's still some furniture that needs to be shuffled, but it's nice to see those in normal configurations again. HEPA filters were present in most of the classrooms and the larger office spaces. It seemed that maybe some were unaccounted for, but we were assured that they would be there for the opening. The nurses' station is an area that we saw, and again, that's set up in 2 offices, including an isolation area, and both nurses will be on staff, which again, I think we're very lucky to have a good nursing and health staff.
Yep.
Outdoor tents were not here yet, but the plan is to have another large outdoor tent out back behind the cafeteria. And the principals were excited to be using the cafeteria again as a cafeteria, so furniture needed to be placed, but that will be an option again. I
There's
think.
also going to be tents on either side of the building. There'll be one on the high school side and one on the middle school side.
Great.
Smaller ones for outdoor classes.
That's good. And so I didn't see if they're present here yet, but
No.
when they get delivered, I've heard that from
Tomorrow
other
or Monday
folks
they'll be here.
in other buildings as well. But and Becky had alluded to it tonight. To have those outdoor spaces is really great. Notice that the gymnasium had a new coat of flooring, poly down, so you could smell that in the hallway. The boys' locker room had been refinished this year, and that project really came out great. We also did see the girls' locker room, and that's in good condition, and I think would be addressed when it's time to do that. But certainly the boys had conditions that were not up to speed. So high school and middle school are ready to go, ready to welcome in students, and everyone's excited to get back in the buildings on Wednesday.
Good. Yeah, and I actually spent some time this morning at Winthrop. I met Amy for the first time, and she's great. I mean, I was really impressed with her organization, and she's just kind of, off and running down there. What really struck me about Winthrop was the total lack of clutter. There's no clutter at all in that building. And I think that's one of the goals that she's had. She mentioned to me she wanted to kind of just purge all the classrooms of any excess stuff. She's done a good job of it. The place was immaculate. She wanted me to make sure I mentioned her custodial staff. They've just been excellent all summer. So she's really happy about that. You know, COVID protocols are in place, just as the high school, middle school. You know, nursing area is all set up and ready to go. Most of the rooms appear to actually be put together and close to being ready for students, which sort of surprised me. I thought, you know, it'd kind of be lagging there, but the teachers have been great in terms of getting everything in and set up. You know, still the standard water stains in the ceiling in the second floor, but I don't think we'll ever get rid of that. She said that there hasn't been a huge issue, but there was one or two tiles that were taken down to aid in ventilation of the ceiling. But overall, I mean, you know, I think the school is probably about as good as it can get in terms of cleanliness and being ready to go. So yeah, it's sort of exciting to see it at that point, get the kids back in. And I, you know, spent some time with Amy just kind of talking about some of the things, the policies she's changing. Dismissal policy is a big one, kind of, you know, reorganizing the whole dismissal process. So yeah, it was great. It's a great hour or so I spent down there today.
I got to Doyon this afternoon, met with Sarah, who's amazing. It was really interesting to walk through the school and listen to her excitement about her vision for Doyon, which I thought was really neat. The classrooms look great. Teachers were in there painting their classrooms. They look beautiful. She's really excited to sort of pull everything back out and have everything out for the kids to access, especially the STEM and STEAM area in the library. And the one thing that I thought was really cool is in the courtyard, I guess the shop class in high school made teeny little stools for the elementary school students, and they're adorable, and they're ringing the trees so teachers can go out and have their classes on the cutest little stools you've ever seen. But it was kind of nice to hear about our high school students doing that for the elementary school students. And yeah, again, they were checking all the heating and cooling systems and setting up all the HEPA filters. And then we went outside and we were sort of looking at the playground and everything, and she really has a drive to get some more inclusive equipment on the playground. Like Winthrop seems to have a lot of that, Doyon not so much, so she was actually really excited about pulling that in hopefully this year, and working with some of the parents on getting additional sports equipment for the playground. So the school's ready and she's ready, and it was nice.
Yeah, it's good. Okay, so Brian, looks like you're up. Okay, Superintendent Administrative Report and opening update.
Wake up here. All right, looking back at the calendar since our last meeting, I did manage to get in some much needed vacation time before switching gears and starting to get ready for this new school year. I met with the administrative team to discuss our world language program and planning for the future. As you know, we wrote the Payne Grant a number of years ago for the world language program at the elementary school, and so we're looking to build upon that and bring more into the middle school and potentially expand offerings in the future. So we're starting to lay some of that groundwork. We had several tri-board meetings to discuss the upcoming town meeting. The most recent one was last week when we listened to a presentation about the public safety building, and after some questions and answers, all three boards voted to support the public safety building project going forward at town meeting. Attended a meeting regarding the boiler feasibility study that we're doing here at the middle high school, along with some work that's being done in the town. I organized the mandatory trainings for this year, including expanded opportunities from the providers of our ALICE training. They've greatly expanded their offerings, so I want to be able to offer more to our staff in that regard. We're in the process of negotiating contracts with all of the bargaining units. We've met and established ground rules and expectations with all three of the ASME units. We don't anticipate that those are going to take very long to come to agreement on. We're continuing to work on negotiations with the teachers unit, and hopefully we're nearing completion of a contract with the new ESP unit. We've been spending time with each of the new administrators to make sure that they're on track and ready for the new year. We've thrilled to see the level of collaboration between them. On numerous occasions over the summer, I've gone into one or the other building to find they're both working together in whatever building I was in. So it's great to see them working together and talking about the different projects and how they're moving forward with things this year. Been meeting regularly with Chris Race regarding to the facilities, just to make sure that we're squared away and ready for the opening, and to track the ongoing projects. As you know, we have some capital projects. Most of them have been completed already. Some of them we're still working on, changing over some controls and things like that. But all of that is ongoing. We had the school committee retreat, talking about the goals for the upcoming year. Been in regular communication with the North Shore superintendents. As I indicated earlier, we've all been talking and commiserating about how to open school this year with the mask mandate or not. Thankfully, the commissioner finally came out and took care of that. Last week I talked about the tri-board. This week I've spent time with each of the principals reviewing their opening day plans. We also had our new staff orientation today, welcoming 24 new employees to the district. A few staff members couldn't make it. Overall, I think we're in great shape to open next week. We still have a few last minute positions to fill, but I think we're going to be all set. Little side note, although I don't have all the numbers from each school, I can tell you that we are seeing an influx of students this year. Although at Winthrop, we've had a total of 32 new enrollments and 9 students exit. So there is an increase there. Statistically significant increase. That includes kindergarten numbers of 67 students. So we have class sizes of 22, 22, and 23. At the Paul F. Doyon Memorial School, we had 13 new students with 8 leaving. And we have 60 kindergarten students there. So a few less in that school. But, a year ago, a little over a year ago, when we were doing budget, we talked about
Maybe 2
Reducing
classes.
the section, yeah.
reducing a section in kindergarten, and I'm glad I pushed back on that because we'd be hiring tomorrow if that were the case, because we couldn't manage that many kids. Looking forward to welcoming our staff back on Monday and our students back on Wednesday. It's been a good summer.
You sent that email out about the families that live in the gray area in terms of, did you get any response to that? No.
No, because all of them had reason to stay.
Stay.
Their siblings or
Yeah, okay.
child care issues, et cetera.
Brian, on the boiler issue, do you have any ballpark numbers or ballpark sense of what that
Not yet.
project would be?
Not yet. There were just, the meetings thus far have been to just talk about and select who's going to do the feasibility study. So they haven't put numbers in yet.
Anything else for Brian? Okay. Was that your opening update also? Brian, do you have anything new?
Well, just the Return to Learn document was
Mhm.
updated and published yesterday. I wanted to get that out. It's out a week. It's out a week before school starts. It's all new protocols that came out from DESE over the summer, and so we've changed the protocols. I've worked with the nurses over the summer to make sure that we have everything in place. We'll be doing some of the rapid testing and the test and stay protocol that's in there. And so, we hope to have fewer kids out in isolation.
Mhm.
So, the commissioner made it clear that he expected all kids to be back in school full-time, 5 days a week. And so we want to make sure that we put in what we could to keep kids in the building and staff in the building without having to isolate them as much as possible. there isn't a remote option. So if kids are out, they're gonna be out.
I've read some stuff about the masking mandate this year, specifically that children who come down with COVID, because they're masked in school, aren't necessarily going to take out their classes or their neighbors in the classroom with them. Is that correct? Are you going to be testing neighbor? How's that going to work for the cases of COVID?
It's right in the protocol,
Right.
too. It's toward the end of the document are all the protocols. So for individuals who test positive for COVID, self-isolation for a minimum of 10 days after the symptom onset or after the positive PCR or antigen test. They can return to school after 10 days once they've been without a fever for 24 hours, experienced improvement in other symptoms, and they may receive clearance from public health authorities and contact tracers as well.
Yeah, more importantly, I think the new thought is that if you're sitting adjacent to a kid who came down with COVID, if you've both been masked, that it's safe to continue to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what my understanding is. Whereas before that was taking kids out of school for a week, regardless of testing status. I think that's the case, if you've been masked.
So I appreciate that the document was reduced to 17 pages this year. But, you know, I wonder if there's a way with, again, the nurses in the building, perhaps not now, but as we get a little bit closer into cold and flu, parents always have those questions of, what can you do with symptoms? What do I do? Or somebody in my family has, you know, some symptoms. So having, you know, even something that's just more of a reference sheet that people can go to very quickly, I think would be really useful and probably making things easier on the health professionals in the building.
I think this year, you know, as things are changing so quickly and we know so much more this year than we did last year, I think that communication will be out there.
Great.
You know, sitting here with a head cold now, we haven't been masked, but last year, if you recall, there was no flu.
Right.
It really wasn't a cold season or a flu season because everybody was wearing masks. So, you know, hopefully we'll see that this year. You know, not that I'm advocating for kids wearing masks all year, but you know, let's see where this goes.
Will the same type of messaging come out as far as number of cases of students or student families that affect schools?
Yep,
and those
that's what I
reported?
anticipate doing. Yep, is continuing that weekly. I mean, the state isn't collecting that data, but we'll certainly have it in-house. So I'll be able to report that out every week. I plan on continuing my Friday afternoon messages.
How about school buses? Are we, you know, what are we seeing for numbers there? An uptick from last year, or do you have a sense for
As
that?
far as ridership.
Ridership, yeah.
I think it's up. I'm not sure of the exact numbers. I mean, all the kids are eligible to ride. They have to be masked.
Mhm.
That's a federal
But no
mandate.
spacing, right?
No
No spacing.
spacing. Windows are gonna stay open. Buses will be sanitized at the end of every day.
Mm-hmm.
That's all in the Return to Learn document, and I talked with Maureen yesterday about that before I published it.
Good.
But there's no social distancing.
Right. That's good. Anything else?
Are you participating in the test and stay program
Yes.
that the state is offering?
Yes.
Any other questions for Brian?
So Brian, have you talked to your administrators yet about how you'll handle the child who comes to school without a mask or chooses not to wear a mask?
We did.
And-
We did, and they're not gonna be allowed in school. Plain and simple, it's a mandate from the commissioner's office. You know, we've got the legal opinion from Mass Association of School Superintendents that the school committee has the right to make set those guidelines, set those mandates. And that's where we are.
Good.
The thing is, what we found is that even last year, even at the end of last year, when everybody was mask fatigued, kids wore masks. It's not the kids that have the issue.
Right.
It's the adults.
Mhm.
And not necessarily our teachers want to be in masks, you know, because most of the, you know, for them, it's safer.
Mhm.
I mean, not that anybody wants to be in a mask, but you know what I mean. And so the kids were fine. Kids didn't have any issues wearing the mask.
It just became automatic for them, you know, after,
Right.
after a
Right.
couple of weeks.
And we provide mask breaks throughout the
Mhm.
day. There's nobody wearing a mask for 7 hours.
Nope.
They don't have to wear it when they're eating lunch. They don't have to wear it anytime they're outside. They don't have to have a mask on.
If I could just, my sister was telling me about a survey that somebody did of school kids, and it was in Montana, so I don't have the survey itself. But they were saying, what's your least favorite thing about school? And like 12% of kids said, I don't like wearing a mask, but 60% of them said having to have a hall pass to use the bathroom. So, I mean, it's like proportional.
Okay. We'll move on to finance update. Cheryl.
Yes, thank you. Did anyone have any questions about any of the information I provided? I gave just a year-to-date budget report. We're 17% expended to date. And then just your annual kind of student activity funds and their balances as of 6/30. I'm happy to answer any questions on that. There is one new account that does need to be created, and that's by school committee vote for the class of 2024.
Move to create an account for the class of '24.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
So could I ask a quick question? So you're 17% encumbered. When school starts, do you encumber all the teacher salaries right away? And so all of a sudden we're 88% encumbered?
So we usually do, actually, that usually happens about a month after school starts, and that's really because there's still kind of teachers coming on, off, leaves, things like that. And so we kind of wait about 30 days into the school season, and then all the salaries get encumbered.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Cheryl. Okay, our second public comment session. Anyone like to make a comment? Becky?
So, thanks, sorry to take up more of your time. So my earlier statement, I just addressed the mask issue because that seemed to be the issue of the moment. But I did also want to let you all know that we also polled the teachers regarding mandatory vaccinations for adult staff. At the time that I sent the poll out, I didn't ask about students who qualify for the vaccine, so I only have data regarding how teachers feel about mandatory vaccinations for adults. And this was done before the Pfizer vaccine was received full FDA approval. But even at that time, we had 79% of our teachers who were in favor of mandatory vaccinations for adults. So I'm not sure where you folks are as far as considering that as a possibility. As you know, we do require other vaccinations and types of vaccines for employees and for students. And those people who were in support of mandatory vaccinations really felt that, you know, it's a public health issue and makes us all safer the more people who are vaccinated. The minority of teachers who are not in favor cited the issue of, you know, personal choice regarding a person's health as their main reason for not supporting it. But I just wanted to make you all aware of that. As you know, the MTA is supporting mandatory vaccinations for adults in schools, and the NEA has also supported it, and the IEA is affiliated with both of them. And again, our percentages kind of align with what those two organizations, our parent organizations, have come out with. So I know that you didn't have that on your agenda for tonight. I don't know if you will in the future, but there you are.
I think we'll need a
Thanks.
bigger
Thanks,
room
Becky.
if we put that on the agenda.
No, I'm sure you'll hear from that 30%
Yeah.
of teachers, so.
Thanks, Becky.
I appreciate you bringing it out. You know, all the hospital systems in the state, with the exception, I think, maybe of Stewart, who has a multi-state footprint, have come out with mask mandates that will require all employees vaccination mandates, which will require all employees get vaccinated by, I think, October 31st. And so that's a pretty heavy demand on some of our employees. There are people who are considering leaving medicine because of that, but it's the exceptional person. I think most everybody realizes it's important. And the question is, right now, the state has given us a carrot approach, which is 80%, and those people don't have to wear masks. That's a pretty big carrot for people who are vaccinated. I think it should incentivize our children and our parents to choose vaccination themselves. I do think, though, we should consider a mandate at some point going forward, because it's a public health issue that will be a safety issue for our community. And if we lead, it's maybe a smarter thing than trailing this whole thing. I'll leave it up to the committee. I think the carrot idea is great with the state rules, but we can go a step further.
Emily?
Also, public employee, and we just came out with mandatory masks, which we've had in the trial court throughout Massachusetts, but also we all have to be vaccinated by, I want to say it was August 30th, or mandatory weekly testing on your own time and dime. And that you had to use your own time if you fell behind in getting that testing done and had to wait to get it before you could return back to work. So it's pretty onerous to put on somebody, but everybody was in favor
Yeah, I
of
mean,
it.
you know, colleges and universities are doing it. I'm dropping my son off tomorrow, and that's, you know, one of the first things they wanted, I think a month and a half ago, was proof of vaccination. So, you know, it's not uncommon.
And they still test you,
Yeah.
and they should.
Yeah.
Brian, any administrative thought on a vaccination mandate, or you hold off conceptually for now?
I think I want to hold off for now. Curious to see what the new numbers are once we get the doors open,
Yeah.
and I have an accurate count, which we'll be asking for from the staff to see. You know, we may be approaching that 80% or better
For both staff and
for the
students?
staff and students. So, you know, I don't want to make it. I don't want to say yes, it has to be mandatory if it's not.
If it's already going to be, yeah.
Can I ask, are we just asking people, you know, to just tell us, or are we requiring proof?
The nurses are collecting that information, so I think nurses are just, you know, parents are letting them know, and I think the staff as well. So, I don't believe we're asking for cards.
Children by nature don't have the opportunity to choose for themselves sometimes, and even if a kid may have the thought to get vaccinated, their parents may not let them. What do you think of this issue where some kids will be shamed because they'll be wearing masks because they don't have a vaccine? It's a concern.
For us administratively, it's a concern as well, and that certainly entered into the decision-making process for recommending masks, is that you're going to have students who are masked, other students who aren't, for any number of reasons, whether it be their own health issues or family health issues or just their own comfort level. And one of the speakers tonight talked about that in some of her
Right.
comments, the bullying and harassment that goes on, and it certainly would be there. And so, you know, I would rather everybody be in masks than and not have that issue than have some with and some without. You know, we may get to that point where we have to consider that and what that looks like. I mean, in this building, for example, you know, if October 1st we get to the
80%
to the
threshold.
rates, well, that's all well and good, but you've got the high school and the middle school in one building, and you've got the sixth graders who wouldn't be eligible for the vaccine yet, but 7th and 8th graders who would be. So who's wearing masks, who's not? So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, but it's certainly going to be an issue. And, you know, the elementary schools, they'll, you know, unless the mandate changes, they'll all be masked.
Interesting ethical dilemma
Yeah,
on
it
the
is.
mask forever side, unfortunately.
Yep.
I just hope doesn't detract from our students' ability to learn this year and our teachers' ability to teach this year. That what's going on in the community, public debate on any issue is great, it's welcomed, it's important, but our job is to make sure that the environment our kids are in, our environment our teachers are teaching in,
Is
is
conducive to
supportive of
learning.
that.
Right.
And, you know, the one speaker went after me when I am proud of what we did last year
Yeah.
and
For
how
sure.
we managed
Mm-hmm.
the crisis and the amount of learning and teaching and learning that went on and the amount of curriculum that was covered. I think we did a damn good job.
Yeah, I agree.
So, you know, I look for that to continue, and I'm proud of our staff.
Yep.
Okay, anything else? All right, we'll move on. Vouchers and bills. Good.
We're all set?
All set there. We have not had any subcommittee meetings, correct?
August is a quiet month
Yeah.
for subcommittees.
Yeah, so we gotta get that ramped up.
It'll all ramp up soon.
September is go time.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, no liaison reports, working group reports, nothing there. Any new business?
Do we know how athletic numbers are looking this year? Do we have more kids
I
in
don't.
sports?
I did not connect with
I know volleyball was
week.
probably the busiest it's ever been, but the football numbers are down. because we
Football's
lost
way
one
down,
players.
yeah, I think, last I heard, I think they only had 24, 25. They were hoping for a few more when school started. You know, kids that didn't want to do the summer conditioning workouts, but it's tough to count on that. Field hockey looked good. I dropped my daughter off today, and their numbers look excellent.
I can have that for the next meeting.
Yeah, that'll be interesting, because again, the COVID impact wasn't just on classroom and everything else, it was on extracurriculars, pretty dramatically.
Sure.
And a lot of these, just athletics, but a lot of these other extracurricular groups didn't exist at all last year. They just couldn't happen without after-school meetings and get-togethers outside of school.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out.
Yeah. I mean, I do still struggle a bit with the transition from middle school sports to high school sports. I don't think there's a great communication link there.
Especially now.
I think kids find out later on in the process that these are the sports you could sign up for. But, you know, in reality, most of these kids are already doing, you know, getting together and working out on their own, and they're kind of building that bond, and then the freshmen come in and they've missed out. So I think maybe we could talk about that in our athletic subcommittee with Tom, how to get a better link between the two.
Especially now.
Yeah.
I want to say that there was already an activity fair, or is that coming up at the high school?
Next week.
Next week? Okay.
Mhm.
For the-
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it'd be great to do something like that if we could in the, you know, in the spring for 8th graders, you know, just so that they're
That's a
in
great
early.
idea.
Yeah.
That is a good idea.
I know my daughter, who's the head of a couple of organizations as a senior in high school, has already been reaching out through social media to kind of build membership again in the clubs she
Mhm.
participates in, just because a lot of that stuff didn't work last year, and now people are pretty eager to get back to a full school schedule
Yep.
and a full extracurricular schedule as well.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, so are the parents. Okay, new business? All right, and Laura, you said no consent agenda tonight?
One of the things that I just plant the seed now, one of the things that I'm looking at to bring forward probably at the next school committee meeting is looking at our substitute teacher rates, just to ensure that we have enough substitutes, and looking to increase that. Our rates are
They're low.
they're low for the area.
They're
and
low.
So we're reportedly losing subs to other districts. You know, there are people that sign up in multiple districts, and when they get the phone calls in the morning, you know, if we're paying $90 and the district next door is paying 100 or 110, they're going there. So I want to look at that. I also want to look at a differentiated rate for retired teachers. So I'll bring
Oh,
that
that's smart.
forward, some numbers on what that looks like.
Sounds good. Anything else? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Out in under an hour.
New record.
Yeah,
King of the universe.
you're the chair. Sorry, Chubb.
Chubb, you're out.
I don't accept that.
Come on, you're so good at it. It's like natural.
Oh, where's Chubb?
Iceland.
Iceland.
Oh my God, I forgot.
It's either on an island in Maine or Iceland, one of the two.
Yeah. See you, Becky.
Nice to see everybody.
Thanks, Becky.
Bye, Becky.